Welcome to the ROI Masterclass, the podcast where vision meets strategy and bold moves create measurable results. I'm Liat Siegel, interior designer and ROI strategist with 17 years of experience. I help businesses transform properties and ideas into high-performing assets. This show is specifically for real estate investors, hospitality operators, and boutique developers who aren't afraid to take risks, challenge the status quo, and demand a return on every decision they make. Each and every week, we talk with innovators and leaders across industries about the strategies and the insights and really all the unconventional thinking that turns potential into profit every single time. If you believe that smart design, decisive leadership, and strategic risk are the keys to real ROI, you're in the exact right place. Let's dive in. Today's guest is David Horwath, a visionary developer who is redefining what it means to build community. David's work is rooted in the belief that authentic placemaking, creating towns and neighborhoods that foster real human connection across income levels and life stages is the key to lasting value and vibrant living. David's projects focus on integrating diverse housing, thoughtful open spaces, and a sense of belonging that stands the test of time. He's also a strong advocate for servant leadership and building legacy, not just in structures, but in the lives of those who inhabit them. Thank you so much for joining us, David.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Can you walk me through your background and more of how you got to where you are today and how that's impacted how you develop communities?
That's a great question.
It's loaded.
I don't think anyone has asked that question quite that way. And so I like it because, on the surface, a graduate from Georgia Tech with a civil engineering degree and with an emphasis in structures. The only reason I ended up there was I found out on registration day that there were multiple disciplines under the umbrella of civil engineering. I did not know that. And I didn't know how to answer the question. So I said, just put me in the hardest one. And if I do good in that, I'm pretty sure I can still get a job anywhere. And from there, the rest is history. I went into land development very quickly into that world. Within the matter of less than a year, I was managing with our boss, office manager, 2,000 acres, master plan community out in California. And it was funny. He said, you want to be thrown in the deep end? Here you go. It was the deep end. But we were about to lose the job. We were about to lose our contract with the developer. We were behind schedule. None of our plans were getting approved. We were over budget. There were 5 engineering teams working on the project, and every engineering team was trying to do the plans for their local municipality, not where this project was located. And very early on, this light bulb came on of we've got to figure out what it is that this municipality wants and needs, requires, and how do we take what we do well in all of these locations and build a platform. And that public-private partnership journey began. What a lot of people don't realize is the type of development that we are so passionately drawn to in this town building world or new urbanism or this traditional neighborhood development. It has a couple different names now. It's illegal in most places. It's not permissible by the existing zoning code. Zoning code is built to have attached single family in one location and detached in another location. It's built to have residential in one location and to have commercial in another. Most municipalities across America don't even have a mixed-use zoning permission, allowing it to be permissible. Parking requirements are built on the separation of uses, not the combination of uses. And so 20 years ago, as I take off on this journey that ultimately puts me in Toronto for a year, Brazil for 2 years, DC for a year, it had this thread of partnerships with private companies that would then go and interact with a public entity, a government. And for 20 years, I've been working in all of those environments in every direction my career took me, even around the world. And what I learned were 2 things. One is partnerships, when structured correctly, will actually produce something that no individual entity, individual, or group could have done by themselves. The power of accepting, listening, having friction, debates, produce something better every time. Additionally, if you're trying to change something that's been in place for 80 years, a zoning code, to allow you to do something different, you have to be a really good listener, because there's a reason they have chosen to create these blockades. It's not arbitrary, almost 99.9% of the time. Something happened. And so understanding what happened allows us to build bridges to look to the future versus being scared. There was a situation where I felt in a meeting that there was a lot of PTSD about something we were proposing, and there was a lot of friction on the other side. And I didn't sense animosity as the core reason why. And so we asked the question, can you show us what is causing you so much heartburn? Can we go visit it together? We did. It gave me PTSD.
Oh my God.
I would not want anybody to develop something like this.
Oh my God.
And so now we have a bridge. We know what they're trying to prevent. So now we can structure something that allows what everybody wants, but prevents what nobody ever wants to see again.
Can you share without sharing what the parameters of what that is? Because it sounds juicy.
It was very interesting. If you are a transaction developer, you will make decisions that promote short-term gains over long-term value. Yes, I'm referring to a very specific situation, but when we go and expand this out to the global scene, that principle still is very true, and it can demonstrate and show itself in a lot of different ways. For example, here's just one example. We believe water tables on a house, having front porches a minimum of 18 inches above the natural grade, does a variety of things. Landscaping, or when grass abuts it, I don't have a more fragile material at the bottom. I have more brick and more stone, so a weed eater or something can come along and keep things cut. What if that's vinyl? What if that's hardy and I'm weed eating that, right? Deterioration. It has a more historical presence. We didn't build things not that long ago. Everything had a water table. Everything had a transition. Everything had some fundamentals of architecture where the porches were raised up a little bit, where it allowed you to engage into the public realm, but allowed you to have a private realm. How close you brought the different elements, the frontage types, we call them, to the street and the sidewalk versus needing to keep them apart in some way, in some cases. It's all these nuances that matter that historically we built by. But when you go into mode of speed, transaction, profit, commodity, got to get out of the bank debt so we can make the money versus all going up in interest, you build a different system to respond to those inputs. And so when we saw what had gotten created, you're able to create a construct that allows, and what is a hot topic right now of debate is cottage. Cottage can be done incredibly well, but a build to rent cottage currently in most places, not all, most places, is done very poorly because it's a build to rent. It's built under you don't even have home ownership at the fundamental of the build to rent model, right? But a cottage, we've had cottages all the way dated back to villages on the outskirts of cities. Like, those ideas and concepts are not new. They're actually very traditional and historic. But our zoning code struggles with that sometimes. Interpretation of law can struggle with it sometimes. What is access, as an example? Is it by vehicle alone or providing permitted access by pedestrian means? Is that permissible? Different lawyers have different opinions. And so you're trying to just take this complex solution that provides housing diversity and working in codes that have been adopted very rarely, as I mentioned a moment ago, based on malice or a strong desire to block housing diversity. It's just a product, a result of people coming in and doing something bad, and that being the hammer to resolve that from happening again when a screwdriver could have worked. So that's just a way to capture that. I know I wasn't given the specifics, but it's really a broader issue. I've seen this in Canada. I've seen it in Brazil and South America. I've seen it in Europe. I've seen it all across Europe, actually. I know of multiple projects, both in Italy and London specifically, and then it happens in the US. And the individuals that are attracted to those environments really do care mostly about the public good. They're not these, people are like, oh, it's a government job. We need government jobs. We need people that are passionately caring about our public spaces. That's important.
Yeah.
And how do we work together?
Right. And it really goes back to what we were saying before about the communication and partnerships and all of that. It's an ecosystem of relationships and understanding. When you understand, which is what I love so much about this podcast, is because I get to speak. I'm a designer. I'm not a developer. I'm not a big investor, though we do have property, but I get to learn from people like you and ask questions and say, hey, I don't understand this, or I want to learn better. And that helps me become a better designer, an ROI focused designer. And it's creating that bridge. If we have that mindset rather than being an island unto ourselves, we will constantly, as a group, as a conglomerate, we will be, I believe, more powerful and more impactful working together in that symbiotic relationship.
I could not agree more. My favorite book, it's a blurred out here. We have a book club that we force our team to read every year. And Creativity Inc. was written by Ed Catmull, and he is the co-founder of Pixar Animation. He's about his whole life was built on this idea of being a Disney animator, but he didn't have the skills for the drawing. And he comes along as the computer aid is coming into being and has this dream to make the first computer animated movie. Every time he embarks upon creating a movie, the technology needed and required to build that movie is not invented yet. They have to invent it. And I related a lot to him about the ideas and the principles of Pixar. They at the heart of the culture we're trying to build here at Land Innovations. But just like you said, his passion and desire, his challenges and how he overcame can be very much applicable. A quote from him is actually on our conference room wall, and it says art, and I pivoted that and put in parentheses, creativity is the unexpected use of craft. We all have knowledge. We all gain knowledge in a variety of different ways, and sometimes it comes at us quicker than we can handle now. But what I enjoy and the people I enjoy being around are the ones that look to apply that craft in an unexpected way. And I believe Ed has done that with Pixar and the amazing stories he's able to tell through computer-driven animation. And I believe that's something that you enjoy doing in the interior space. And it's something I enjoy doing in the placemaking space of land, raw land, and creating a town, a heartbeat of a community. And I think we can learn. The only way we get there is by learning from people from all these different disciplines and what we can take into our specialty.
Absolutely. I always say when people ask me, oh, who do you work with? I say innovative investors, inspirational, like innovative developers, like people who are looking to the future, people who are looking to make an impact, because it's not exciting to just do humdrum and just, the same old, and without that heartbeat. Like you said it perfectly. It's the heartbeat of the community, right? It's not just about making money.
We're about to launch an amazing website that I think will transform the story of developers. And it's going to involve Japanese joinery. It's going to involve interviews. So we just interviewed a 91-year-old widow that we've been doing 10 years of development on. And she gets to the end and literally just breaks down in tears.
No way.
About how much she believes we fulfilled her late husband's wishes and vision. Wow. And it was like, and it got on camera. I was like, whoa, I didn't even ask for that. Like, it was just an amazing moment, and it's one I'll treasure. And we had like the more expensive 8K cameras. And so like, we're going to capture something and an emotion that is got me pretty pumped.
That's incredible. So meaning that you built out something for her, and that was
so so Stevens Valley is this 800-acre, 1,200 unit development, and we were at the very beginning. Her husband had tried a couple developments, so he thought he could write Mr. Bill Stevens the perfect code that would produce a product that he felt proud about. And so he wrote all these stipulations down, which is very similar to Euclidean zoning. Euclidean zoning is we can prevent bad neighborhoods. Since the 50s, I would argue it's been very, very unsuccessful at accomplishing the goal, but that's what everybody knows. So he thought he could write it out. And then he realized I can't. So he went on this mission to find a group that could take his vision. He was willing to play long term because he knew he would not see the first dozer on the project, and said, I'm going to do something bigger and better. I want a town. That's all we started in this journey with. And we're much further down. We know a lot more than we did when we launched on this journey, but it's been a great story. And so part of our website is we're turning the camera back because we can't do what we do without our land partner, even our development partners and us on projects that are even bigger. It still pivots and involves that land owner because they have to make a choice. Do I want all the money now and engage with me in a transaction? If that's the case, we're not the right group. But if they are seeking to engage in a transformational, legacy-driven project, they will make more money over time, but it will not be the instant gratification of a big sale, get a check now. In that environment, we can't go create this amazing place because once the bank debt hits, that's why we have, so I'm talking to this gentleman with the Washington Post and we're scheduling an interview next week. He's like, I'm not understanding how is financing driving the production of suburban sprawl. And I'm like, because they came together and they formed this journey over the last 80 years, so much so now that they're indistinguishable. And so when you come to do something new, our team can't work under this current structure. To get out of that structure, I've got to get a land partner that is seeking to do something transformational versus this transactional relationship that typically is involved. And so for us, when you land on our 14Ds websites, you will see the landowner in their words saying why they did this.
What I'm wanting to understand is what's the difference between having somebody who is a land partner versus owning the land with your development firm and doing it yourself? Is it because they have the vision and it's their project and they're the visionaries that are taking, spearheading that dream? Is that what it is?
Traditionally, they have a dream, a desire to do something with their land that isn't just another subdivision that is copy paste spread across the property and lacks identity, lacks a legacy. There are a couple different types of people that own large tracts of land. The two extremes of this are land rich, financially well off, but not in the same level of the land that they possess. And then you have those that are land rich and aren't needing a large check now to transform how they go. So you've got this spectrum in which we engage, work with, and navigate the entitlement process with. When we say land partner, they care about transformational impact to their community, number one, over just getting a check and being done with it. They desire deeply that their kids and their kids' kids and their kids' kids look back and say, we had a part in changing this community and the trajectory of the built environment. Almost every single one of them has this passion. And that is important, but then we'll structure something with them that works for them, works for their family, meets them, but it isn't this burden. So let's say in a hypothetical situation, we've got a couple projects that are well over 200 acres. If you are transactional, then I want all that money day one. Well, that's a huge debt burden to anybody. And when you take out this debt burden, the clock ticks and there are forces that are going to be on you to deliver quickly and to deliver in a manner that prevents the debt getting so big that it takes away the profit of a project. But what if you work with landowners, and not every landowner is different, but what if your land partner cared enough to say, hey, the transformation is more important than the initial transaction? Could you arrange something with a family that looks over the long term versus the short term? And that conversation will always look differently depending on who you're talking with. But it ultimately, if you get a family that isn't focused on the transaction, everybody will get creative to fulfill the needs of what it takes to develop and the transfer of value. Because there's always a transfer of value. It's either initially or in some methodology that gets developed over time. And we try to work in the space where that occurs over time, because then you're not going and you're not having to get the same typical investors and big loan debt and all of these other things that inherently create more risk. And so that's what I say when we're talking about land partners is, if it's a transaction and it all has to happen, there are institutions that have been formed that operate in that tunnel. We're trying to find people that are creative, that want to think different, that want to have a bigger impact, and say, hey, I don't have to have it all up at front. Now, what that means over time, it achieves different results for different people. But once you're able to take that value transfer and spread it out, now you can do things with the development that otherwise you don't have the time to. And so that's what I mean by land partner, is they're not taking on any more risk per se, but I guess you could say they would be, because it's not an instant transaction, but it's just the transaction looks different. And so if the bank institutions aren't behind this, because they actually like the big debt model and how that's what they know, then you've got to find other ways to get creative. And we spend a lot of time, because you got to understand where they are. Everybody's got to have the same goals. And if you don't get there at the beginning, you're not going to get there over 20 years, over 30 years. One of our projects is literally 35 years long.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I want you to break that down for me. But first, I want to make sure that I'm understanding that what you've just said correctly. So is it because of the banks and the debt that becomes a burden or dilutes the vision because of the constraints and because of the conditions that they set on the project? So you're unable to kind of be as creative or pour your heart into the project. It's not institutional in any way, that it's got heart and soul. Like there's a heartbeat to the project because there's somebody at the forefront that really cares what happens to the land and to the community as a result of that development.
You made a couple really important points there. So if the larger the debt, the bigger the interest payments. The bigger the interest payments, the quicker I got to pay it down, right? It's just fundamental of economics. There is a clock that starts every time you take a loan out. And so if you've got to get that out quickly, you don't have the time inherently to take the effort and energy needed to have the right architectural finishes, just like interior, right? If there are interior designers that are based on speed. They're turn and burn, and it's in and out, and it's good, it's okay, but is it the place that you remember? The same thing happens when you're trying to do this with a piece of land. If you got to go fast, where are places you gain efficiencies? Production, right? So that term, our track building, production, home building, is because of I can turn quickly the same product. I know it better than anybody. I don't even have to look at the plans anymore because the walls are here and the building's here and this is what it is. But our builders, our craftsmen, our partners that buy the land from us and finish the vision in the vertical realm in which we guide and lead all the way through the process, they're not built, and nor would we want them to go that fast, because if they're doing that, it's hard to create authentic places we all love. Because if we think about the authentic places that we all love in this country, and if we've had the privilege to go travel to countries that have been or that are much older than the US, authenticity comes from mistakes. They come from the unique perspective and paradigm of someone that came in and built their home. And if we don't allow for that to happen, now we can't take forever. This is, every home doesn't have 2 years of trajectory to be built. So there are parameters, but it's not the here are my selections, let me pick, choose, and that's what I get. They get to put their own personal touch. Some families love craftsmen, for example, architecture. Other families love federal and colonial and Victorian and Italianate and Queen Anne, and the list goes on and on, right? So if we can provide them the ability to pick the style that speaks to them and the colors that are historically representative of that style, but yet is their twist on it. And that becomes what I believe grows these authentic places. And we're okay if it's not all perfectly right and if there was a mistake, because everywhere I go that I love and that our team loves and that our development partners love, we notice the mistakes. And that's part of being sincere and real. Did that answer the question?
And then some. I think the authentic places we love is going to be splashed everywhere. Quotes and and titles. And I think that is so important, right? I just spoke to an investor yesterday, and I was talking to him about the design program that we are building out called the ROI Playbook. And the ROI Playbook is essentially a spec book of everything an investor or a developer would need from an interior design standpoint on all the finishes and all the selections. So you have that speed. But then his objection was, well, everything will look cookie cutter and you won't have a personality to it, which is where I said, well, then we layer customization on top of that. So you have both the speed and you have both the authenticity for them to be able to select what they want, to customize it for because that is where they'll call home. That is the place that they'll want to be. That's the place where they'll feel proud to entertain, to make memories. But if you have that efficiency built in, then everything goes so much smoother.
And that's where, we pick and choose. We're never going to beat a track builder, nor should we. But our builders, what we have found is they all have tendencies on what they find, what draws to them. So traditional, classical, European flair. So everybody has inherently in the system that you're creating. And so we have builders that fill different pieces of the spectrum. We then layer on how much, based on their company size, are they willing to do spec, semi-custom, and custom. And then when you add another layer on of an individual coming to choose whom they want to work with, who they connect with, the style, the demeanor of the company, the culture of the company, I guess would be a better way to say it, then you're building in this customization. Although this builder, I can walk through a development and tend to show you which ones are his because he has a style. But if you only allow a builder to build 3 homes in a row, and then they got to go down the block and build 3 more homes down the road, it adds a rhythm that we were told we're allowing too much flexibility. But builders also are capitalists, and they will go and look at everything built around them if they're not the first into that part of the project. And they're not looking to do something so crazy out of the blue that doesn't fit in. They're going to choose. So you have these mechanisms that allow tremendous creativity and expression of self to the ultimate individual that's going to live there, but yet you are allowing them to have some level of comfort with what's happening and the process and structure in which to build. And then you have amazing builders that are willing to go across the entire spectrum. There's not a lot of them that do that, but what I appreciate is if you get the right builders, they're always willing to push themselves and their teams. And where the efficiency comes in, they have really good teams that can do this type of work. They're craftsmen. And so we found a lot of good success in that. And we have found that even before the street trees grow in, it's a beautiful place to visit and to look at. And I think it will only mature with time.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the collaborative element is what's key and what sets companies apart. Like when you have trade partners or builders, developers, when they're collaborative and they're forward thinking, it creates an entirely different project than working with people who are only focused on the money. Because I say often that ROI is not just the money. It's also the people. How are we living? Are we just in this world to just make money? No, we're here to love and enjoy and to connect. So, and we're spending most of our days, right, working. So why not enjoy it more? Why not have fun while you're doing it and enjoy the people that you're working with?
You say something that's at the heart of what we're trying to create, which is the most enduring places that I can think of in my life are the ones that connect people. It's not based on the transportation of an individual from one location to another location, whether that's horse and buggy, a car, or, a drone in the future. Who knows? But when you reach the destination, are you isolated or are you connected? And I've been in places from the building and the interior standpoint that really shows the intentionality, the placemaking, the opportunity to sit and talk and converse and or to make new connections. What if we also did that in the development world? What if we looked at it as we don't always need the same type of connection? Sometimes we get excited and every place has to be an Instagrammable place. Well, if that's the case, do you really have a place of respite, of reflection, of quiet time to have the deep, important conversations with others? I think there needs to be layers of that. And I would argue that the places that I'm drawn to from an interior standpoint allow for those things to happen in the space that would otherwise just be an open void of noise, and you wouldn't know where to go or what to do depending on the need. And so we've come up with this idea, our development team has, of primary, secondary, and tertiary levels of activity, of engagement with others, and how that gets spread out. So my primaries are big events, big playground, big pool, lots of activities, lots of noise. That's not your reflection location. That's going to have some cool Instagrammable moments, if you will. But then you have the secondary. It's going to ratchet that down. And what if we had this tertiary level, which is landscaping, benches? It's not activated nearly as much, but maybe nature is the focus. And so how do you create that in a way and in a network that people can utilize and be drawn to depending on what they need for that moment?
Wow, that's awesome. It's really cool how you've categorized the different spaces, because on a micro level within the interior environment, that's absolutely what we do. There are moments within the space where you can, connect with your family or go to read a book, and you're doing it on a macro scale through development. I would love to know from you, is there one challenge throughout your career that kind of made you take a step back and really affected the way that you show up today? Whether, personally or in business, or something that has really impacted you and said, I'm going to do things different. You touched on that a little bit, but maybe there was something really impactful that made a huge difference in your life.
That's a great question. So very early on, out of engineering, going to Georgia Tech, I felt very compartmentalized in my career. You're an engineer, you're always being an engineer. Engineers aren't creative. And so I fought that pretty hard because I always wanted to be just more than an engineer. It was something I related to. It helped me be better organized. It helped me navigate noise and try to find out the root of problems. I feel like that's what engineering gave me, but that was just the start. I had so many more interests and I desired to learn so much more. And so we like to say that we're the land of misfit toys at Land Innovations.
Oh my gosh, love that. Love that so much.
We're the group.
Especially after the Pixar.
Yeah.
After you related, I would just be like, wow, this is such a fun place to work.
We didn't fit in anywhere else. And somehow, some way we find each other. And the more we don't fit in, the more we fit in here. It's kind of been this mantra that we've embarked upon. And a large part of that is because I wasn't allowed to bring all of what I wanted to bring to the jobs and the assignments that I was given. So I went out and created new assignments and new jobs. I went and got an MBA. Almost all my employees say, do I need to go get an MBA? I'm like, trust me, you stick here, I will give you 3 MBAs. You will learn more here than an MBA. I felt like, having that put on you and people reading into what you can bring for the first 2/3 of your career, you don't want to be that person. And when I got shipped to Brazil, it was a life-changing moment for 2 years.
In a box?
Was not a box. We lived in Nashville and I commuted to work in Brazil. That's a long story, but that's not the easiest way to go. I don't speak Spanish, Portuguese, or Brazilian Portuguese, so that's another fun one. And I wasn't allowed to have a translator initially. And so we ended up, in less than 2 years, writing an RFP and landing a hospital project in Fortaleza. Our team had representatives of 5 of the 7 continents. And I was asked to be the coordinator of not only this consortium of private entities, publicly traded most of, with the government of Brazil. And so there's this partnership of private entities that are publicly traded that then have to form a partnership and a relationship with a government entity. And I was young. I was still, 27, 28 years old as all this was happening. It really inspired me to understand and sit in a room where so many people from so many backgrounds looked at the exact same problem and all came to a solution from completely different perspectives. And to me, that was fascinating as I'm learning how to guide this very complex business philosophy. And it really inspired me to always be willing to listen, hear, find the elements that's not the noise, but the heart of what we're trying to achieve, and really try to bring people to a rally call in pulling all together in a single direction. And I use that mantra and philosophy every single day with everything we're doing across 4 T&Ds in both Tennessee and Alabama. And I would say that experience, Brazil, it stretched me. I had more on my plate than I knew what to do with. I had all of these different personalities. Most of the team was older than I was, but yet being able to get us all to rally around a common goal and then go deliver and win a hospital project in Brazil, and I didn't even know the language, it opened my eyes to thinking about solving problems in a different way and leaning more into the diversity of differences of all the people we're bringing together. I would say that would be probably that one moment.
Wow.
In my career.
You were already building bridges from a young age.
I don't want to stop. It's enjoyable to see a bunch of people working together, all caring about a common goal and helping facilitate. It's very rewarding.
That's wonderful. Can you leave our audience with your top 3 tips for any developers or investors out there? What would be your top 3 tips when working on a project or thinking about getting started?
I would say number one that's been very impactful in my life was a book called Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. I relate to his humble beginnings very much, and the willingness to ask, be vulnerable and ask for help. Admit that you may not know the solution, but to dig in deeply because you care and you want to grow. Number 2, I would say, is understand what grit means and lean all in on it. We are crazy to do what we do in the development world, to care as much as we do, to work the hours that we do. But when you love it, when it's your passion, it's not work anymore. And that's been, I wake up every day and I'm not going to work. I'm going to build towns. And I can't imagine doing anything else. And then the third thing is to build trust, to build partnerships. You've got to over communicate. And in a world that communication occurs electronically for so much of our lives, you can't build real partnerships that way. People still need to be connected to people. And I believe that that's the mantra of what we go out and create in these towns, is a framework of connecting people, a canvas that has the bones of connecting people. And if we do that, I truly believe the places we leave behind will last generations and will impact generations. And ultimately, my hope is it will actually be better than we left it in the end. Because when you connect people, life is going to change in the next 100 years, 200 years. For most of humanity, they couldn't imagine a car, a train, a motorized means of transportation, a plane in the air. But if we connect people and we think about that in what we do, and then we run our businesses and approach each other in a respectful manner, it's really amazing to see what can be accomplished. So off the top of my head, those are the 3 things I'll put out there for consideration.
Amazing. Thank you so much, David, for joining us. Such an insightful, wonderful conversation. I really enjoyed it very much. If our audience wants to connect with you, how can they do that?
LinkedIn. I really am encouraging individuals to follow us because we're trying to give 2 posts a week about the journey of development. I hope to have more meetings in the future about this, but right now LinkedIn is a really cool tool we've leaned into a lot over the last year and a half, and we're looking for ways to add to that. Our website is li-tn.com. It's not great today, but we just settled on a launch date of January 31st, 2026. So it's coming. We've got video production staffs working to help us tell the story of a lot of things we've talked about here today. But LinkedIn for now is a great way to follow us. And if you're curious about development, if you are what are some of the things happening behind the scenes. We're trying to help tell that story through our LinkedIn page at the moment.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We'll all be sure to follow you and follow along on the journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it.